You're listening to WRPI Troy, the Upstate Underground, home of Joe, home of Wacky, and home of Glimpy. I'm your host, DJ Bonfire. We are here today to have a very special interview with Bailey. Remind me your last name?
Scieszka. It rhymes with Fresca.
Oh, sorry. Say that again. I forgot to turn you on.
Oh, it's Scieszka, rhymes with Fresca.
Yes, and we are talking about the EMPAC. Sorry, remind me.
Oh, okay, so we're doing a play at EMPAC called Conspiracy Influencer. It's a 4-part puppet drama starring my alter ego, whose name is Old Put.
So then let's start with that. Do you want to talk about Old Put a little bit for our viewers?
Yeah, definitely. So Old Put is this shape-shifting alien clown who I've been embodying for about the past 10 years. It's like this performance alter ego I've had because I had like this interest in painting, and I discovered clowns are just painted people. I wanted to talk about gender politics, and I wanted to talk about politics and fashion and all of these things, and I thought, what a great way to do it, almost like a drag persona.
Yeah, and we had talked about before about like Opa being shapeshifter and existing before like they them pronouns exist. Can you describe a little bit what it was like when like realizing like Old Put's like pronouns were they them and gender fluid, and like how that came about?
I think it all kind of started because my favorite artist is Jack Smith. And he was a huge inspiration for Andy Warhol. He's kind of more of an underground performance artist. And he had worked with a lot of drag queens, a lot of people who just didn't want to be like in the gender binary. And there just wasn't ways to talk about it, especially in the 60s and even 10 years ago. So through art, I'm just able to explore these things and try to discover what it means in my life.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. Do you want to talk about what got you into puppet theater? Because that's probably a big part of this EMPAC performance.
Yeah, definitely. So growing up, Miss Piggy was definitely one of my heroes. I'm going to be honest. Definitely like aspired to be a Muppet, not like, you know, a doctor or a lawyer. So the next best thing, I guess, could be like create them. But I got a grant in 2014 through the Puppet Art Theater in Detroit, and I got to learn like all this old school puppet making from people who are professionals, and they really reached out and they taught me everything.
What made you decide to do puppetry for this performance specifically?
Well, for about like the past 10 years, when I can't sleep or when I used to have a job, I would just, when I was bored, I would write scripts, like these like fantasy scripts on my phone. And so then after I would write these plays, it would be like, well, how do you show a human chair? Like this show has a human chair. The best way for me to do that in theater is through puppetry, like all of these fantastical characters and these talking objects. Like, how do you show it in real life? A puppet.
I want to ask probably the biggest question that I really need to know. What made you interested about message boards on Reddit, 4chan, and YouTube comment sections?
Okay, so for this play, I've been kind of trying to explore parts of American politics and American history that scare me or make me uncomfortable, and I want to work through them through my art. So, and they're just fascinating to me. I mean, there's this book called Fantasyland by Kurt Anderson, and it's about how conspiracy has been with America since the very beginning. That the Pilgrims, they said that they were coming to America for religious freedom. They were actually coming for gold. So, like, even the things that they said were lies. And the Disneyfication of this culture has created this idea that everything has to be perfect and wonderful. And so when I was looking into American politics, and I found conspiracy just runs through so much of this country. And the way that I could find out and learn about them was going on Reddit and going on 4chan, which are like the dark annals of Earth, like hell on Earth, and kind of like mining through that. And a lot of them are creative, quote unquote, air quotes, in their own way. I mean, some of these theories are so fantastical that JFK is alive and he's running the country, and sometimes Trump is wearing JFK is sometimes wearing a Trump mask if he's wearing a red tie. So.
And how did that start with? Did it start with just, did you just like slowly go into this, or did you take like a head dive into each of these? Was there like a way that you were slowly started interest and you went from like certain subcultures, or did you just take a full head dive into it all?
Well, when I was a kid, X-Files was huge. It came on after The Simpsons. And I always watched that show. And so I remember like really feeding into all these conspiracy theories from a young age. Like that show had aliens, Bigfoot, JFK assassination theories, the moon landing being faked, everything. And so I guess because of my diet and pop culture, it's kind of always been with me. But the QAnon, I mean, obviously that's new, and that's something that you have to find online.
So what is, I say this in air quotes, your favorite
I keep saying that.
Yeah, your favorite wacky conspiracy theory that you found?
I mean, QAnon is the scariest one right now, and I keep thinking, like, are these plays already passé? Is this already over? But no, there's still, I mean, there's like still cultish groups that follow this. So, I mean, Pizzagate is a part of this. This is in this play, and that was that there's like child trafficking rings through a pizza shop in Washington, D.C., and so that's dark, but...
And through a lot of these conspiracy theories, what have you, like, gotten out of it? What have you either, like, learned, or maybe just... I know that we talked about before about a lot of things terrifying you, because I think all of this is very terrifying.
Yeah, me too.
What have you gotten out of all of this?
I just want to, like, understand the soul of this nation, and I want to understand where our politics is headed and where, so it's just a way, it's like a cathartic way for me, especially with this show, because many of the props are kind of like toys, and so it's like this saying the darkest things in the brightest colors and trying to like work through these things that really do terrify me, scare me.
Yeah. And so I noticed, like, probably not something that anyone at any of our listeners right now can see, but you have a very, like, colorful aesthetic, and I've seen a couple of your paintings. They're also a very colorful aesthetic. How has that aesthetic made it into the actual play?
Well, like I said, actually I got that quote, say the darkest things in the brightest colors, from Matt Stone and Trey Parker. That was kind of like their idea of making South Park, and kind of these like bright, fun, you know, childlike cartoon aesthetic. So yeah, in the show, there's, all of the props are Beanie Babies. I don't even know if anybody knows what those are anymore. So there's like this touch of nostalgia and fun and play and everything that I do.
Yeah. And before we go on, a little thing I forgot to do. We're going to do a little bit of a disclaimer just to make sure that, you know, because we're going to be talking about a little bit of opinions here.
Yeah.
All the opinions that we two have right now are not representative of RPI, the RPI Board of Directors, Troy, Shirley Ann Jackson, or WRPI as a station, and they are all our own.
True.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to do that earlier, and that's just like to make sure, you know, important thing if you're talking about anything. Yeah.
We're talking about the darkest things.
Yeah, talking about the darkest things. I'd asked you this earlier before we start the interview, but what's your interest with exploring things that terrify you?
It's just, again, this cathartic way for me to try and not push it aside, and for me to like actually explore what is happening and why our politics are this way, or why we think about gender this way, because I'm curious. I want to know.
How is your, like, this current one is specifically on you being in interest into this. how has like your art grown from like when you were like maybe very young to like a point now? How has that like changed throughout the years?
I think for a long time, especially when I was in college, I thought like you have to be a painter, you have to be a performance artist, and now I everything blends for me. I'm not afraid to be like, well, I'm doing this performance as old put, and this aesthetic ties into my paintings, and my painting works speak to my video works, speak to my drawings, speak to my puppets. I kind of let everything be in its own universe that I'm creating. I don't think of them as totally separate genres.
Okay. So for the people who are thinking about going to your show or already going to the show, what do you want
Don't
them...
think about it.
Oh, yes, definitely don't think about it.
Just do it.
Yeah. What do you want them to know or maybe keep in mind about this?
That it's going to be a challenging show, but it would also be a lot of fun. I mean, it's a satire. It's funny, it's entertaining, but it's also, you know, it will make you think about things that you probably don't want to think about.
Okay. Sorry, I have, like, when I planned this, I just, like, I thought we were going to talk a lot more in depth about a lot more things. You have very, like, very concise answers to a lot of this. So I thought we were going to go in a deeper discussion into a lot more things. Is there anything that you want people to specifically be noticing about this play? I remember, like, I had when I was in high school, I had gone to a puppet play, and it was one of those things where it's like I kind of really wasn't paying attention, so I didn't get a super lot out of it. So what do you want people to specifically notice or look at or pay attention for about this performance?
There's definitely like themes and things that I have layered in the show that maybe won't make a sense to a lot of people. Like corn is the symbol that I use a lot, and I think of it because it's like it's America's crap. I'm obsessed with the symbols of America, and so all of these different ways that corn comes into it. Old Put has this alien-shaped head, and there's a corn bucket painted on the back, popcorn bucket. And then that goes into the QAnon, because they always say, get your popcorn ready, the show's going to start, meaning like, I guess American politics fall apart. I'm not sure what that's a reference to. So yeah, just I try to do motifs and things that kind of play and tie into each other. So if you watch, you will see all of these different elements kind of interact.
And what was the process for you for making this play? What was going through your head on what you wanted to specifically incorporate, or maybe just even, and what was going through your mind of like, I had to include this?
Well, I wrote it last summer when I was like very nervous about what was going to happen with the election, what was going to happen, all these things. So what was going through my head was I was just trying to work through these politics that are, I don't know, are they passé yet? I don't even know, but.
And so you started this last summer.
Yes.
Was it just you started piece by piece? Was there any like big changes throughout it, through like the past year?
No. And that's why maybe there should have been. I don't know. Like, do people even think about Pizzagate anymore? Is that like already dead history? Even though that's so like, it was so like, I don't know. How fast does history move? How fast do politics move? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I think about with like throughout a year is that that as we move on, like some things like you talk about Pizzagate, especially is that I think that thing is like kind of old just because I got introduced to it in my freshman year of college, and so I think about how sometimes when like with how the world moves, especially like with 4chan and Reddit boards, they're very like things keep on moving forward.
Yeah, but nothing happens.
Yeah, I think
so many things move, but nothing happens.
Yeah, and I just think it's very interesting that you started with these ideas and then didn't really change, change, like,
Yeah.
you kept those at the core, or as you were moving on forward? Or do you think that was, like, a challenge? Do you think that as you were, like, building this, you were, like, reading other, more of the, like, subreddits and subcultures, and you were adding things, or did you, like, keep those ideas that you started at that summer, and then just kept on, like, sticking to that? You didn't, like, add anything else to it?
Nope, so it's kind of a time capsule of last summer,
okay.
of the 4chan, of the,
so that's, sorry, I'm not a great interviewer, as you can see, you're doing
great, sweetie.
Yeah, so, with this time capsule, do you think that, this is another thing that you want to try again, and with taking another, like, idea and, like, trying to take a moment in time in which you research it all and then build from there?
Definitely, and this is probably about my 10th play, 11th play. Puppet play is old put, so if you go back and look at other puppet dramas that I've done, they really are like a time capsule of how people were talking about drag and identity and politics and gender at that time. It definitely changes year to year, so I don't know if anybody ever does a retrospective of them. I feel like so many ideas and motifs and, you know, characters will be lost. Like, even, I don't, like, do people still know Beanie Baby? like the points of culture that I'm referencing, I don't know, they'll be lost to people in like 5 years.
Is that one of the reasons why you try to, like, have these, like, time capsule types of pieces?
I do. I think it's an interesting way to, like, record history as you see it and you feel it.
Do you ever, like, go back to your old work to, like, rewatch it to see, to, like,
all the time?
Is there...
I do. I love watching my old videos. That's all.
Is there any ones that are your favorite to go back to?
Okay, the first show I ever did was, it was called All the Brown Flowers, and it was old put, and it was really like this time capsule of what it was like living in Detroit in 2014. And I go back and I watch it all the time because it just makes me laugh, and it makes me think of what it was like to be alive then.
And then on the other note, is there any of them that, like, you don't really go back to, that maybe either you're just not, that aren't just your favorite, or maybe you just really don't think about a lot, so you don't go back to it?
Some of them I wish I had better documentation of, so I can't. They're not as fun to watch because they aren't filmed as great.
Yeah. So you said that you've had Old Put for about, like, that alter ego for about, like, 10 years.
A little over 10 years, yeah.
How do you think has going on forward that alter ego has changed, or maybe, like, better realize what it means to be Old Put?
Definitely, when I started Old Put, I mean, Drag Race wasn't even on TV. And so my references for drag were like John Waters, Jack Smith, Mario Banana, like Divine, you know, like all of these older queens, and I don't even really think of Old Put as, like, essentially drag, but I mean, these were the only people I could look to who were doing this kind of performance where it's not like, you know, this is just a character, this is an alter ego, this is somebody who lives in the world and is documented in these plays and videos, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a character or have to, you know, this is a persona. So when I started, there was very few YouTube videos for makeup. There was very, you know, and now you go online, there's Nikki tutorials, there's Michaela, like, there's all these people I love to watch about makeup. There's just better face paint, better things available for you to buy to paint yourself. I've definitely gotten better at sewing, and there's people you can watch online to teach you these things, which I didn't have before. So it's just interesting that there's a lot more people doing this kind of, I wouldn't even say it's like alter ego, but it's just like an interest in how you look and your persona, and just being more creative with your personal aesthetics. So
do you think that, like, having that these communities now like you said, like makeup and sewing, do you think that they have like influence like the ability to like better represent
Yes.
outputs?
Oh my God, it's been amazing to be able to YouTube how to sew a specific thing, or if I have an idea. Now it's so much easier for me to learn how to do all these different things that, I mean, aren't like traditional. I'm like classically trained as an artist. I'm not, you know, I didn't go to Parsons for sewing. So, yeah.
Is there anything that you probably want to say to any of those people who like developed their channels that have helped you out?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, Nikki Tutorials is a huge one for me. But I just like appreciate that they're out there doing it. And like this show is called Conspiracy Influencer, and so in a way, like definitely influencers have really been a huge part of like the old put zeitgeist this moment.
Yeah. Again, I'm having another blank. You're really like. So, I know they talk about like how old put as like just an individual and identity. Have you noticed like any changes throughout the years? Maybe just like unintentional changes on how they are represented, or maybe just how like you said, like you got better through like having all these influencers.
And the products got better.
Yeah.
Like before, I wouldn't be able to paint my hands as well, and now like Krylon makes, you know, different body paints and all these different colors, because there's even like a TV show about like body paint competition. And so, yeah, I just think things have just changed. We're now body modification, and it's more, people think about it more and are more cool with it.
Yeah. Has that like how? So I am just.
Is it the old put energies?
Yeah. Oh no, I
too strong in the room.
Very great energy. I am just like there's just a lot here, and I'm just not sure what to ask like more about.
Dumbstruck.
Is there thinking maybe just about a little bit like future work, do you have any ideas of maybe where you want to go or places you want to add on to?
Well, yeah. So for the past couple of years, I have been doing these puppet shows in my parents' living room because of COVID. And so I thought it might be interesting to then like take my parents' living room places and do the puppet shows. Everybody's like, I could like recreate their living room, and people can just like chill out in it in a space and watch me perform in a living room. That's my next idea.
Is there any reason, like, beyond, like, you've been doing it in your parents' living room that you want to try doing it in a living room?
I just thought it might be fun to try to recreate that experience for somebody outside of, like, the actual living room. Like, but I mean, doing this show has been so incredible because this is the first time that I've been really working with lighting and stagehands and, you know, a full stage and everything. So this is definitely like old put has hit the big time. Definitely like level up.
And like you said, having like all this like night stage and light. Is there anything that you like are specifically glad that you have now in this area?
Well, my amazing team of curators have helped me do all of this. I'm working with some amazing people from BARD, CCS, and everybody at EMPAC has been such a collaboration. I'm so used to working on my own, and so I really appreciated having people who are like really excited to work in theater and really excited to give me ideas, help me see my vision, and yeah, it's just been, I mean, dream come true. I'm used to having to talk about my work because I've I'm such an art school person. If you ask me a question, I'm like, I'm gonna.
Oh yeah, where did you go to art school?
I went to Cooper Union in New York City.
Remind me again what you got your degree in?
I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts, but with no specific category. Just a flat BFA.
Not to be rude, is there any reason why you didn't specifically take any concentration into anything?
Just when I was there, it was like I didn't know what to decide. Video, painting. I even took playwriting there. Playwriting, no. I was kind of all over the board.
Also, do you just want to have like a very broad like understanding of everything?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Is there anything that you wish that you did back in college? Maybe that could have helped you now?
That's interesting. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, or maybe better question is that, say you were able to go to college in this day and age, is there anything now that you would want to, like, specifically learn, or maybe take a class in?
Yeah, I'd like to learn like more couture hand sewing techniques. Definitely, that would be something I'd want to go back for. And pattern making, because like I make all of my costumes by hand now. And if I was able to learn pattern making, I could just send it out and somebody would make it.
Yeah. Specifically into pattern making, is there any ones that you are like really interested in, or maybe you're you started with? Yeah, I'm just trying to like a little interest into
like fashion.
Yeah, a little.
Yeah. I don't know. I definitely am constantly looking at like the history of fashion, because I always have an interest in history, and so I've always thought it'd be interesting to learn like even old techniques, like for like how like early Americans made clothes. Like, what if I made a costume for Old Put that's only like the methods that the pioneers used?
Do you have any like old techniques that you're like really interested in, or maybe just some that like you think that maybe not a lot of people know about?
Not at the moment. I would like to learn though. I have an intense interest in that early American history and how things were made and how people lived. And in Detroit, we have this place called Greenfield Village, and it's like Henry Ford built it as like this old timey town, and you get to see how glass used to be made and how people used to make pie. You go there and there's just people in period era clothes, like, oh hi, welcome to my kitchen, just making a pie now. We don't have refrigeration, so they go over and they show you. I kind of love that kind of theater too.
Is there anything else in like old American like history that you're really interested in?
Well, painting. I love early American painting. That's what I use in my work. Yeah, just the methods of how things were made, how people lived, the craft aspect, yes.
Yeah, what specifically into like how things were made interests you? Because I know as someone, I like learning about how old things were made more of a sense of like how it was done and how like they learned to improve. I'm not sure about you.
Yeah, it's kind of like with my plays, it's like looking at this time in history and how do you live it, how do you embody it. And so if you learn those methods of sewing, if you learn those methods, it's kind of like you're trying to figure out what that time felt like.
Through like learning about this old stuff, what have you maybe either learned about yourself as like a sewer, or maybe just yourself as an individual trying to understand this?
I don't know about if it's about myself, but it's definitely about like the history of America and kind of this like DIY attitude that I definitely use in my art.
Yeah. Talking a little bit about DIY. Is there any other places that you implement like a little bit of like DIY?
Literally everything I do. DIY. I do my own makeup. I style my own wigs. I make my own costumes. I make my own puppets. I write my own plays. I do my own paintings. Everything is like has my hands in it.
Yeah. I guess I should have like been a little more for a lot more
throwing you some curveballs
yes,
here.
throwing you some curveballs.
We've gone all over the place. We've gone Henry Ford Village, Pizzagate, Drag Race. It's a melange.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is. I nothing less from here at WRPI.
We got a real melange of ideas going on there.
Oh, and it is that time. I will say, it is. You are listening to WRPI Troy, the Upstate Underground, home of Joe, home of Wacky, and of course, home of Glunky, the three big ones. We are talking with Bailey. Remind me your last name. I'm gonna forget it.
Scieszka rhymes with Fresca.
I am here just having a little hard time to think about so many different questions because it seems like we're balancing around a lot with everything that is you.
Yeah.
And especially like this play.
The Old Put multiverse.
Yes, Can you explain to me why you call it a multiverse?
I think it's just because it goes through so many shows, and it is its own little world that I create for Old Put with all these characters and things that are reference each other, but I think you'd really have to be deep in my interests to really understand.
Is there any places that you want to maybe explore in this, like, I think I personally would call it a canon, but like
yeah.
maybe like multiverse is a better way to describe it. Is there any other places in here that you want to explore, or maybe try like differently?
That's interesting. No, at this moment, the next shows I'm working on are more kind of about this idea of childhood being like this kingdom. And so I was trying to think of all of these different aspects of play and toys and nostalgia. So it's kind of like what's on the horizon for me.
And with this whole, like, I'm just gonna keep on saying multiverse at this point because I think that's a really interesting, like,
move over Marvel.
Yeah, move over Marvel. Oh, we got to put in here.
Yeah.
No longer out of the count. Disney new thing that they need to buy.
Yeah, let's hope Disney acquires Old Put's multiverse. I would love to sell out. Disney, are you listening? Call me.
Yes, it would be great if Disney was listening.
Mickey, are you there? Goofy, come on.
Oh, especially Goofy. How are your shows connected? Are they just connected by Old Put, or is there like a timeline, or maybe just like small little things that are connected?
Oh, there's a timeline. When I first started writing them, I was thinking of them like episodes of The Simpsons, like this episodic sitcom that could just run on forever. So.
Do you want to like explain a little bit of that timeline to us?
Yeah, so Old Put started out as like this basket making crafter. All of my work kind of references art and what it means to be an artist and why we make things. So it's kind of like this satire on art talk where they were talking about making baskets alone. And they wanted to make art that really spoke to them, so they started crafting realistic sex dolls. That was the first show. Then on from there, Old Put has just gone on all these adventures trying to be an artist, trying to figure out what it means to be a great poet and have a soul in this country when it's a struggle just to stay alive. Yeah.
And speaking on that, like, how much of like being an artist do you think you have of like your own experience of being an artist you put on to Old Put? And is there any things where it's like you have looked into other people's experience that you've added to Old Put?
It's definitely a lot of my deep thoughts. And sometimes I wonder if it can be offensive when talking about like art and just the politics of art today too, where it feels like everybody has to be a toy maker. Yeah. So.
Do you think it's a little like cathartic to be able to have this alter ego that you can then express some of these like deep thoughts that you say that like might be offensive?
Oh, for sure. And it's like you can also hide behind the mask of Old Put to be like, oh no, I wasn't. Old Put said that. It wasn't me. Yeah, so it is like a great bitchy tool.
Yeah. I also want to ask you about like
was I not supposed to say the B word?
Oh, I'm just doing it for safety reasons.
Okay.
Like it's nothing against you. Like
Okay.
you've been doing good. It's just like I want to make sure, just because we're already like talking about a lot of like sensitive stuff. I just want to
tip it over.
Yeah, like.
Goofy's not gonna like that.
Oh yeah, no. We're sorry. I'm gonna be straight with you. The only reason I did that because I don't want Goofy to hear. I want to make sure that connections within Disney is pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So what's it like having this mask as of Old Put? Like, is it?
Having this what?
Like having the mask.
Oh, the mask.
Old Put. Like I think of
it's a dream. I love to live behind the mask. Yeah.
Is there some ways that you wish that you could maybe like I know that like a lot of how you have been talking about Old Put is just like this very like cathartic and like super like amazing thing for you to express some things and also express some really great ideas. Is there some things that you wish that you didn't have to have the mask for, you don't want to have the mask for?
No, and even the theme of the show is that I love like artifice. Obviously, I'm wearing like 12 pounds of makeup right now. Like, I love the artificial, like, sorry, Guy Debord. I love the simulation. You bring the spectacle. He's like, spectacle is a bad thing. It is keeping us from like the true things. I'm like, no, give me more of the spectacle. I'll live in it.
So I want to talk about what's it like having to like at an end of a show, like having to clean up afterwards, especially because I know you wear a lot of makeup, you have a lot of things on.
I destroy a lot of things too. I've done shows where I've like Gallagher style, like come out with watermelons and smashed them open in front of the audience, and I don't know. It's something. It's just like this like fun, crazy release to like get that messy. And, yeah, it's quite the job to get all of that grease paint and makeup off. But I think that's also fun too.
Yeah. Usually like before a play, how long does it take you to get ready?
That's a good question. I used to be a sloppy clown, and it really didn't take me that long. But lately, it takes me about like 2 hours to paint my face and get everything ready, set, go. Yeah.
Before a play, do you do anything to like mentally prepare yourself for the role, or maybe prepare you for the play in general?
I feel like my whole life is preparing for these shows. I think about them constantly. And I think about this character like it's like really my life's obsession. So maybe like the only times that I'm like not worried about mentally preparing is when I'm like there. When I'm in it.
Do you ever like have some like moments, like you talk about like you're always preparing for this, do you ever have like moments in your life where you're just either like sitting in bed or just like like out in the world where you just have like a random epiphany about this?
Constantly. I'm literally constantly thinking about what's going to be in that's going to be in my play. Ooh, and I write it in my phone. Or like I'm asleep and I'm like, I have this like crazy dream. Like the other night I had this dream about this character named Cobby that's like this like living corn man who's like really scary. I'm like, ooh, Cobby's going in my next play.
You talked about earlier about like about like a symbol of like America, like export of like corn.
It's our crop.
Has that like maybe this is a little weird question. Has that like affected how you like just see corn, just like when like it's on your dinner plate?
Literally, corn haunts me. Like, I don't even know if you understand. I can't like go a day without like some like weird corn symbol or something happening to me. I don't even know how to describe it. And I love popcorn.
So do you see like the like corn and popcorn as like different things then with like how you perceive it in like a day-to-day world?
No, it's the same symbolism for me. And actually, I was thinking too with the corn. There was like the aliens have done the drawings in the corn, and so for me it too like references extraterrestrials and so they're fantasy conspiracy.
Okay, so this it has like some of the crop circles.
Yeah, crop circles. Yeah, thank
you.
Signs.
So you talked about like you being a fan of X-Files. I've watched a couple of it. Has that like influenced you wanting to incorporate stuff like crop circles in there?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, I grew up just constantly being terrified of being abducted by aliens. To this day, I can't watch E.T. It's too scary.
Did that come from like watching a bunch of X-Files? Like
for sure. And actually, I think like a cool new thing other than X-Files is I love Last Podcast on the Left too.
What's that? I'm not super.
Okay, yeah, so they're like on this cool podcast that goes more in depth into things, and you can tell that these were guys who grew up with X-Files, and so they kind of like deep dive into all of these conspiracies or dark stories about the world and aliens, you name it.
Yeah. So, a little bit more about X-Files. Do you have like a favorite episode, or maybe an episode that like really influenced this play?
I think about that one all the time. I wish I could remember the name, where they go to the house of like the family and the mom's living under the bed. That one is just like so terrifying, so dark. I still don't understand what that one's about. And so I kind of think that like liminal space of not quite understanding the story and having to sit with it and think about it is definitely something that I think about in my work a lot.
Have you incorporated stuff of like those liminal spaces before in any of your works?
Yeah, I feel like it's pretty much where I want to live.
I think about like here at RPI we actually have an Instagram page that's called the Liminal Space.
No way.
Yeah. So like
liminal spaces.
Yeah, some of them are actually very interesting. After this interview I can show you. One of them is just like I think it's the 87 gym. There's like this blue room with like a table and then just like an old computer monitor on it, and it's like
that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
That's great.
Like the early stages of the page were very good. It's like lately there was one that was just taken in our like games room in the Union when no one was there because of finals, and I'm like, mate, you can do a lot better. There's some very creepy. Like I am a big.
So what you're telling me is that this Instagram is just liminal spaces at this school?
Yes.
Insane. That's amazing.
And I just think that's very, like, I find, through the account, I found liminal spaces just to be so interesting. Yeah. Just as the sense of, like, I like the idea of, like, a picture tells 1,000 words, and you gotta, like, and the story behind that is very important, and I like the idea of like trying to figure out what was that story.
Yeah, exactly, and there you go. That's amazing.
Again, are we on forward blanks right now? I think we're on forward blanks right now. We've talked. We've had a very like curve of random things that we've talked about, and
the melange interview. Yeah, it's a salad of ideas here. We gotta toss it.
And it seems like I don't know, like about 10-20 minutes left of this. I'm not sure how much I want to drag this out.
Okay.
I don't know how you want to keep on talking for. You got maybe last one more conversation we want to end on, like continue. Do you have any like big things you want to talk about?
I guess we should try to get everybody to come to my play.
Yeah. So maybe let's talk about a little bit about would you want to say some things to try and convince people to come to this play?
Should I do like a pitch? I'm gonna do a pitch.
Yeah, let's do a pitch.
So Friday the 13th, May 13th, move over move over Jason. There's a new clown in town. Old Put is gonna scare you at 7 p.m. at the EMPAC Theater. And then if you can't make it out, Thursday, May 26th at 7 p.m. there'll be an online premiere, and the show will run for 4 weeks online.
And sorry, I'm gonna need you to just come here for a second. Can you tell us if someone can't come to that, how can they find that online recording of it on what website?
It's on the
EMPAC website. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is that? It's just the EMPAC
.rpi.edu?
Yes, that is, yes, empac.rpi.edu. Yeah, so anything else you want to maybe add as an extra pitch onto this that people would be maybe interested in watching it either at the day that you perform it live or maybe online?
If you come in person, I brought a whole bunch of Old Put headshots I could sign. A headshot for you, for sure.
Oh, that sounds very interesting.
It'll be a collector's item. eBay at $1.99.
Collector's item right before Disney buys you out.
Yeah. You better get the 2 eBay signed headshot.
Oh yeah, and I just got a question from Jasper outside.
Okay.
What do you think of the job of satire is in society?
Well, for me, it's a good way not to get sued, because I use so many things, pop culture references, especially Disney and things, that I think that when I use satire, it's a great way to make the work my own, to make these things in pop culture and try to comment on them in some meaningful way instead of just replicating them. I'm making fun of them. Yeah.
Do you ever worry that using satire to just make fun of, I don't know, big things like Disney that that scare you in a little bit in the sense of I am blanking on what I'm trying to go with it. I think of
that it's not like I'm directly speaking to something, that I'm more making fun of something. Well, I hope that the work's not cynical. I hope that it's not a cynical satire. I think I come to everything with an obsessive love, even if it scares me. And that these are ideas that I live with, so maybe you should too. Yeah, and I definitely with the conspiracy theories, the only way you can talk about them is satire. I mean, my God, they're so insane.
And so, you don't want to, and you talked about how you don't want to have, a cynical view on all this satire. You want to have, a more, positive view, or what would you say that you think is a better way to view your satire, just satire in general?
That it's not like I'm trying to tear things down so much, that I'm trying to more think about them in a way that's hopefully useful to somebody. Yeah. Not myself. Yeah.
Well, I am
I'm not jaded like Matt Stone and Trey Parker.
I don't know. Give it a couple of years, maybe. You'll go through your jaded phase.
I don't know. I'm 70 years old. I don't know if you know. I'm a senior citizen.
You barely look over a day over 20 than me.
Oh my God! Say that again. Wow, I'm actually 13.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God. You started when you were 3? Oh my gosh.
In the womb.
Yeah. In the womb, started painting.
Yeah. I had a personal tutor, yeah.
Personal tutor.
Personal painting tutor.
Personal painting tutor in the womb.
Yeah, we talked about gender politics.
Wow, amazing. If only everyone could have access to that.
Yeah.
Well, I have been blanking on so many questions at this point.
Sorry.
No, don't apologize. It is my... You are just...
We somehow took the interview into satire.
Oh, well, that is the help from someone helping me out with a question for you, too.
No, but then I think now the interview is somehow flipped into satire.
Well, I don't have any more questions for you. Is there any last things you want to say before we end this?
Just please come to this play. We're working so hard on it. We would love an audience.
And to repeat one more time, that is EMPAC, May 13th at 7 p.m., correct?
Yes, Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th.
And then it's online May 27th. 26th. Thursday, May 26th at 7 p.m.
Yeah, so highly, I would encourage people. Oh, this sounds fascinating. I don't think I'll be in town, but I definitely am.
Oh,
so...
no!
Yeah, I definitely want a headshot though. That sounds...
Okay, oh, we can get you a headshot.
You can get me a headshot?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I would love that. I'm gonna frame it.
Okay. Yeah, you better. It'll be worth $2 someday.
$2? No.
Yeah.
It'll be worth $3 someday.
50 cents. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I have been DJ Bonfire.
I'm Bailey Scieszka.
That's the end of this. I hope you all enjoy what's coming on next. We're gonna go on to our loop for a little bit before we have numbers getting played soon. So I hope you all enjoy that, and remember to keep it locked.